Okay, welcome guys. I'm back, and this is the next edition of the Houck Report. Today I want to talk about, I conducted an analysis on the press conference last night by Sheriff Lombardo. So I think there were some things pretty significant that he spoke to last night, and I think maybe a lot of people won't understand, or what the cops are actually thinking. So, we'll go over, a couple of these things to include the timeline. Now, first of all, we know that last night, for at least 5 hours, Paddock's girlfriend was interviewed by the FBI or Las Vegas PD. I don't know who did it. They probably worked it in conjunction with each other. All right. And, her attorney came out and made a statement afterwards saying that she knew nothing about the incident that occurred, the shooting. She had no idea. This is believable, and I'm sure those who interviewed her last night understand that, and they probably actually do believe it, although the FBI did not make any comments at all, and the sheriff didn't make any comments at all last night regarding her interview. So she's going to be back today for another interview. Because I know, from my experience, that interview is far from over. But one of the things that, stood out to me is that I believe they know something. Just my gut feeling, because they didn't say nothing last night at all. So I think that maybe that somehow she did say some things that were very interesting to the police last night. Okay, so first of all, a couple hours after the shooting, I did an analysis on the timing of the guns that were purchased, for him. I did this shortly after it occurred, and my thoughts at the time were, whenever he bought these weapons, or the majority of these weapons, it's got to be somewhere around that time that the catalyst for this attack had occurred to him. There was something around that period of time, either before or at the time or the same day he purchased many weapons. He had it in his mind that he was going to do something. Of course, I can't confirm any of this stuff, but I think when he purchased many of these guns is going to be significant in the investigation. And Sheriff Lombardo actually said that last night. That there was something to looking at. So I think that was pretty important last night. Also, everyone's talking about, did Paddock have any help in this crime? All right. Now, if somebody else helped him in putting this whole thing together or was involved in the shooting also, the police are going to find that, because there's got to be some contact between him and the alleged other person or other persons. Okay, so those communications are going to be picked up somewhere. I had to speak to somebody on a cell phone, meet him somewhere, whatever, for the planning. So if this did occur, and that this did occur, but if somebody else was involved, the police should be able to pick that up. I don't see no reason to, but right now it doesn't really, look that way to me, that anybody else would be involved in this except maybe him. So that's something, we have to think about. Now, there's some word out there that some people believe there's a second shooter. There was another shooter maybe outside. I listened to the videos and of the shooting going on, and it didn't sound like that there were two machine guns going off at the same time. You got a big echo out there, and of course I could be wrong. I'm not a ballistics expert, but if there was another shooter, I don't think a shooter would be in the room because the police would have found him. I don't think there's any way anybody got out of that room at all. Okay? So if there was another shooter, he had to be at another location. Right? And if he was at another location, then he would have been using a totally different gun than the ones that were recovered inside the room. So when they retrieve all these bullets, you know, from crime scene and from the bodies of the people that were shot, they're going to conduct a ballistics report. All right? They're going to conduct ballistics and match those bullets to the guns found in the room. If they find some bullets that don't match any of the guns that were recovered in the room, more than likely there's a second shooter from somewhere. But I don't think that's likely. So I just want to, there's no evidence to indicate it, or they haven't commented about that, so I think it's probably very unlikely. But there's a possibility. You know, you have to think of everything when you're conducting an investigation, something especially as high profile as this. So that's something to think about. Now, his parked vehicle. Allegedly, there were some explosives. Not allegedly, explosives were found in the car. Something called tannerite. What is tannerite? People can buy it. You know, you shoot into it and it blows up. People might set up like little targets and put some of the tannerite and it'll blow up the target. Not a large explosion unless you have a whole hell of a lot of it. But the issue here is that the police said that they recovered, I think it was 50 pounds of tannerite, you know. So that's a lot. That, you know, 50 pounds. And I'm going to show you a video in about a second here where these guys blew up a car and they only had 50 pounds of tannerite in it. And I can show you the damage it does. I mean, I'm sorry, they had, I think about 40 pounds of tannerite in it. And show you the kind of damage it does to this car. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the video right now. It's 30 pounds of tannerite. Okay, 30 pounds. So this guy had 20 pounds more of tannerite in the car. Now, you have to think to yourself, now the tannerite, all you got to do is put a bullet through it and it'll explode. That's why a lot of guys buy it when they go outside shooting and stuff like that. It blows things up a little bit, and it's you know, it's fun. You know, if you're a shooter, you know, you buy some tannerite, blow some things up a little bit, make a little puff of smoke. But you know, it's yeah, when you have 50 pounds of it together, or we'll show you this video, 30 pounds of it together, it's going to create quite an explosion. All right, so I'm going to show you this video. And these guys went out in the woods somewhere, I guess, or in a big clear, you know, field. They put 30 pounds of tannerite inside an old 1979 Ford Bronco. And from 300 yards away, they shot into it. And this is what happens. Okay, let me show you this. All right. Now. Okay. All right, so here's the video. Let me try and adjust this for you here so you can see it better. All right, so there's the vehicle. All right. Let me include in a little bit more for you here. Let me bring this up so you can see it better. I know I'm a little technically challenged here. It's not like when I'm on CNN, they got all this stuff ready for me. Okay, here we go. I'm going to show the video, and I'll show you what 30 pounds of tannerite can do when it's shot into in a vehicle. Look at that. Completely destroyed the vehicle. We're going to show it a little bit in slow motion here. Inside a car, it's shooting shrapnel all over the place. Can you imagine if he shot into his vehicle, if it was within his sight, and there were people around, and there was 20 more pounds of tannerite inside that vehicle, that it would be devastating. Devastating. It would have killed a lot of people or seriously injured a lot of people. So the video is going to show you here also what the vehicle looks like when it's finished totally destroyed. There's not much left, and there's shrapnel all around that whole area. So just goes to show you what kind of damage you can do and what kind of damage he could have done with that tannerite inside the vehicle. Okay. All right, let's get back to me. All right. Okay, let me reduce this. Okay. So you can buy 10 pounds of tannerite for $80 on the internet. I looked it up, and this is easily available. And I don't like that this kind of explosive is easily available to purchase. But, you know, maybe that's something we need to look at. Maybe, you know, we can blame the tannerite next time something happens instead of a gun. So it's kind of crazy, right? All right. Another question. Why did he have so many guns? You kind of think he had over 40-some guns, and he was, you know, did he try and raise a platoon of killers for himself? Like, you know, there's 30-some guys in a platoon. There's 40-some guns recovered. I don't know. I don't think that's what happened. You know, a lot of people buy a lot of stuff because they just like to buy a lot of things. Like, I've got quite a few guns. I mean, I don't have 40, but I like guns. I like handguns especially, and I have quite a few. But this guy had 40-some guns. So, listen, is he the type of guy that likes a lot of guns? Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility. I mean, everybody's asking the question, why so many guns? It was definitely overkill. He didn't use all of them. And so why that many guns in the room? Why that many guns in his other living locations? So that, you know, that's an issue you want to take a look at. But listen, some women can't survive without 100 pairs of shoes, right? So guys like a lot of stuff too. And some guy, I know guys that got like 50, 60, 70 guns, you know, because they like them. So just because you have a lot of guns doesn't make you a lunatic, all right? But, you know, a lot of people just overthink things and overbuy things that they like. So, I mean, that's the way it might be with him, you know. So he just, everything was overkill. All right, now, police think also that he may have been thinking about escaping. I got no clue how this guy thought he could escape. He was in that room on a 30-some floor. He had video cameras all around. For him to think that he can knock off a couple thousand rounds and then get out of Dodge, but the police think that he had a escape route, or they believe that he, you know, was going to try and escape. So I'm trying to think to myself, like, this guy's, you know, they found, 1,300 rounds in the car. They found all this other tannerite in the car. Was he planning to escape, make his way to the car, and then commit another attack somewhere or blow something else up, you know, at another location? I don't know. They don't know that either. But maybe this is what made them believe that, you know, he could escape. Here's my issue with the escape thing. Of course, I could be wrong. Where was the vehicle parked? All right. If it was at the hotel parking lot, all right, then it would have had to been picked up by a valet, all right, or was the car parked outside in the hotel, outside of the hotel somewhere where he could run to it and immediately, instead of waiting for the valet person to get to him, he can just go right to the car. Because if he parked the car inside the parking area of the hotel where a valet person had to come, a valet person had to come and take his car and then take his keys, then he would have had to come down, wait for a valet to get his car, and then make his escape. So I think if the car was parked inside and valeted by the hotel, I don't think he had any plan for escape. But I think if the vehicle was parked somewhere outside where he can directly get to it and make a quick escape, that's definitely a possibility. But I don't know how the hell he ever even thought about getting out of his room. I don't know. But this guy's a lunatic, so he might have thought that he could get away. All right. Now, the next thing I want to go over is the timeline. Now, the timeline, they gave it out last night, and there are a couple things I was just looking at, and stuff, maybe I can explain some things regarding that. So at 10:05, the first shots were fired by Paddock. You know, this they know for a fact. Okay, so and because some of the cops were in the personal cams, and they could hear the shots going off, and they linked the time to the cameras that they were wearing. All right, at 10:15, Paddock fires his last shot, and then at 10:17, the police reached the floor. So the police reached the floor 2 minutes later, approximately 2 minutes later. Somewhere in between 10:15 and 10:17, security officer discovers the room and is shot by Paddock. Now, the last rounds that were fired at 10:15, were those the ones fired at the security officer, or were they fired out the window? Now, the sheriff had said that they found 200 rounds were fired into the hallway. So those are probably the rounds that were fired at the security officer. Now, were those the last shots? All right, so I would tend to think so, but, you know, wait for them to come out. So at 10:17, the police reach the floor, identify his location, and at that time, did Paddock kill himself? Now, here you got a guy firing automatic weapons all the time, and then all of a sudden there's a sound of one shot. If I was outside that door, I would have figured, well, only one shot? This guy just killed himself. All right, because, you know, you can't guarantee it. So, but that's if he fired his shot later on. And, you know, he could have killed himself directly after he fired the 200-some rounds into the hallway at the security officer. So, you know, if the officers did hear a single shot sometime after that, then they would know he killed himself. So at 11:20, SWAT breaches the room, and they find him dead. This is approximately like 63 minutes later. So the questions are, why did the police take so long to breach the room? Most likely, like the police are saying, it's because the firing stopped, all right? And you got to remember also, there's a possibility, you know, SWAT team's got to think, you know, did he have the door rigged with explosives? So you have to remember that also. You know, this isn't the first time something like this has ever happened. So at this scale, yes. But, you know, SWAT has got to think, listen, is that room barricaded? And is that room, is that door booby-trapped? So they have to think of that. And since there were no more shots ringing out, you know, the police could have also thought, listen, we got a barricaded situation here, and let's try and take him alive. Now, why do you want to take this guy alive? You want to take this guy alive because then we wouldn't have all the questions we have right now. We'd be able to find out exactly why he did it and if there's anybody else involved in a possible conspiracy to do this. So I'm sure all that was in the minds of the police officers. So I finally made the decision, probably after not hearing any responses from him, yelling at him through the door, that they decided to breach the room. But I'm sure that if he was still shooting out the window, the SWAT team would have breached that room immediately. Okay? So that's what would have happened. So that's all I gleaned from that press conference yesterday. And so if anything significant comes out of the next press conference, I will go ahead and do another video and try and explain that to you all also. So any questions, please comment, and I'll try and answer them next time I go on. And I hope, you know, this answered a lot of questions for people out there who really don't understand a lot of things like this. So until next time, guys, you know, God bless, and see you next time.